Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker. Knights of Ren confirmed to appear. Den of Geek. Sign up for our daily newsletter. The Knights of Ren will finally return in Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker, which published a cover story about the movie that reveals a few interesting tidbits about this mysterious group of villains. The magazine, the most important new detail about the Knights of Ren is that the rumors we've been hearing for months are at least partially true. Kylo Ren is at odds with the rest of his order in The Rise of Skywalker. Why the sudden turn, we don't know, but it's good to know we'll finally get some answers concerning the history of the Knights of Ren and their whereabouts in the first two movies. So far, in Episode 8, Luke explains to Rey that Ben Solo left with a few of the Jedi Master's students for parts unknown after burning down the Academy. It's likely that what does it all mean? Well, no for sure. Latest in movies. Star Wars: Knights of the Old Republic movie on the way. Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker. Knights of Ren to appear. Tenet cast, release date, and more for Christopher Nolan film. Quiz the Week in Geek. T-Novo, a film in the works from Resident Evil team. Featured content. Spider-Man: Far From Home new trailer, cast, plot, and more. Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker trailer, plot, and more. Avatar 2, 3, and 4 release dates, cast and more. Contact us. Copyright limited, under license from Felix Dennis.
Raindrop, drop top, smoking, no cooking the hot pot. Fucking on your bitch, yeah, that. Looking up, open the park pot.